Hello, welcome back for our next episode of the Lapland Lowdown. Today I'm going to be talking all things getting to Lapland from Helsinki. There's a whole nother aspect to getting to Finland or getting to Helsinki in itself, and we might touch on that and on a different in a different episode. But today what I wanted to talk about were the different options for you to get from Helsinki to Lapland. One of the things that I didn't know when I first started booking our trip to Lapland was that there are in fact so many options. So I wanted to just outline the fact that there are options, that there isn't just one main hub where you can go to get to Lapland or see beyond the capital of Rovaniemi. You can actually get to a number of different locations from Helsinki. And that is something that we certainly didn't know when we started planning our trip, and yeah, I'm not sure how many others know. So I have a long list here in front of me, and so you'll have to just excuse me while I'm looking down at my page, but I just want to make sure that I cover all of the different airport locations. So if you haven't had a look at a map of Lapland in Finland, I would definitely recommend doing that, because the best way for you to see where everything is to be able to actually visualize it. So you may have a bit of an idea of where you want to go in Lapland, or you may still be working that out. But looking at your options in terms of flights or airports that you can fly into, or whether you're going to get the train or hire a car, whatever is going to suit you best, may determine how you actually get there. And it can also be something that impacts your decision about where you will go. Because quite often I know that I would absolutely love to go to the very, furthest north, northern part of Lapland in Finland, but it's not straightforward to get to, and it's obviously more expensive because you've got further to travel. So there's just a few things like that that do help to understand, just to make sure that you've got all the information prior to setting everything in stone when it comes to your planning. So I'm going to start here by talking about the different airports. So there are 6 airports in Lapland that people use to get to Lapland and to explore Lapland. We're talking about Finnish Lapland primarily. And I say primarily because there is also Swedish Lapland, which is next door. And even in Norway, actually, people, depending on which direction they're coming from, if you're coming from Norway, you may actually come in through the top and travel south. If you're coming from Sweden, you might do the same. But there are actually people, and I haven't learnt a lot about this yet, but I have heard of people looking at flying into Sweden and making their way into Finnish Lapland from there, and it being sometimes more affordable. So that's certainly something to look at as well, but I'm not actually talking about that in this episode today. So I'm going to start with Rovaniemi, because Rovaniemi is the capital of Lapland, and that is where most people will most commonly travel into from Helsinki. So we'll talk about the airports first, and then we'll go on and talk about the train. Rovaniemi is the capital. It's where you're going to get the most access to everything. It's easiest to get to. It's the cheapest to get to. And in terms of the popular towns or villages to visit from Rovaniemi, obviously, you've got Santa Claus Village and everything in and around Rovaniemi. Renua, which is where the Arctic Wildlife Park is, Posio, which I've talked a little bit about in the group and online because I visited there last year, and it's just a really underrated, untouched almost little village, and it's not far from Rovaniemi, and it's beautiful. Kuusamo, there is also an airport in Kuusamo, Ruka and Kemijarvi, which is where I'm holding my group trip in January. So there's a few towns that you can easily access, and they're sort of within an hour to 2 hours from Rovaniemi. So that's a really good option, particularly given the flights are cheaper to get there. But obviously, if you are staying in a town that's further out, then you need to consider transfers. Transfers can be very expensive, particularly in winter, and particularly if you're looking for a private transfer. There are public buses, but there are public buses, and yes, you can use them, absolutely. They don't always come out with their timetables until quite late on, which can cause a little bit of stress and angst, just not knowing what you're going to do. For example, I'm traveling to Santa in January, and I'm planning to, I'm getting the train from Helsinki, the overnight train from Helsinki to Rovaniemi, and then I'm planning to, I think I'll probably catch a bus to Santa. If not, I'll hire a car, but I'm still working that out. But I can't actually see the timetables for the bus as yet, and I would like to be able to, because I like to have things organised. So the fact that I can't book that in is probably the thing that's making me think maybe I'll go down the car hire path. Anyway, so Rovaniemi, they're the towns that you can access from Rovaniemi airport within a couple of hours, which is good. They have car hire at the airport. It's very easy to get to. It's not far from Santa Claus village, and an easy taxi ride into, and public bus into the township itself. So next, I mentioned Kuusamo before. So Kuusamo actually has an airport itself. It's not far from Rovaniemi, but in that it's probably a couple of hours away, but you can fly directly there, and from there you've got a number of towns, popular towns to visit from there. So Kuusamo itself, obviously, Ruka, Posio, Sala and Renua are probably the main ones that people would go there for. It is more expensive, but it tends to be more expensive than Rovaniemi to fly into, and there are less flights. So out of all of these other airports, there will be less flights going in and out of them in comparison to Rovaniemi. But obviously, by getting a bit closer to your accommodation, you can reduce your cost of transfers. You may not need to hire a car. Lots of accommodation does airport transfers, so you might be able to access something like that as part of your accommodation package. Obviously you save in travel time as well. And I know a lot of people who are traveling to Lapland don't have endless time while they're there. They want to make the most of the time on the ground, actually seeing and doing and participating in Lapland life. They don't want to be spending their time in a vehicle being transferred from one airport to the other to their accommodation. So there's a couple of options there. Sala is one of the more eastern locations that people would visit, and another place that maybe people would access from there is Sodankyla. Hopefully I've pronounced that correctly, but I think that people who want to go there would actually fly out from Kittilä. So I'll move there to that airport now. So Kittilä is where you would fly to if you wanted to go to Levi, Fia, Luasto or Sodankyla. It's a very popular airport for people to travel to Levi from, but also it's not actually in Levi, so that's something to be mindful of. Again, lots of places will have transfers factored into accommodation packages and that sort of thing, but it's certainly something to consider when you're booking that. So you're actually maybe 30 k's out of town. So if you're booking accommodation there and you're hoping to fly into Kittilä and then get your transport to your accommodation, just factor that in, that cost or car hire, whatever that might look like. Then we have Ivalo, which is further north again, and that's the airport that you would use to access Inari, Satasalka, Utsjoki, which is one of the most northern points of Lapland, Finnish Lapland. That said, as I said before, I'm not flying into Ivalo because I actually found that it wasn't the best deal, and I'm all about finding the best financial deal and timing and all of that. So for me to access, or for me to get to Satasalka, I wanted to make sure that it was the best value. So I have flown, I'm getting the train to Rovaniemi, and then I'll get the bus or hire a car. So that worked out to be considerably cheaper, and the timing of arrivals and departures and all of that sort of thing worked better for that combination. I think there is also, and I will get to talk about the train in a minute, but there's certainly the appealing factor of getting the overnight train as well. And I'll be travelling with a friend who's never done that before, so she's pretty excited about that. So the other one that I thought I would just mention, actually there's two that I was going to mention. One is in, and they're in this similar area. One is Kemi Tornio, which is south west of Rovaniemi, and a little bit further south is Oulu, O-U-L-U. And I think more and more people are actually looking to access further, like airports that are a little bit further away, because they are a little bit cheaper than some of those ones further north. But again, if you don't have access to a car, or your accommodation doesn't provide transfers from those airports, it can be expensive. They do have public buses though. So Oulu, for example, I know you can get a bus from there through to Ruka. So that could be another option for people who are looking for perhaps a slightly cheaper option. Oulu is known as a university town. It's on the beach. It's amazing. We actually spent a night there on our way out of Finland a couple of years ago, and the beach was frozen. It was amazing. So we were walking on frozen ocean, which was a very strange feeling, and it was a little bit too crunchy underfoot for my liking, but it was very much frozen, and it was very safe, and there were people way further out ice fishing and that sort of thing. But that was a very cool experience, that and very unique. So not something that I didn't even know that you could do that. I didn't know that the ocean actually froze like that. I'm not sure why I had never really thought about it, but anyway, I did. And yeah, then I heard when I was there last year that people are traveling to, and locals travel from Oulu, pronunciation, through to Ruka, and that being an affordable option. So yeah, I mentioned also that I have heard of people going to Swedish Lapland and then coming across into Finnish Lapland. So that could be something else to consider. But obviously, if you're short on time and maybe you're not so concerned about the financial side of things, there's definitely options for the transport, or the travel time to be reduced by going to an airport much closer to your accommodation. So what I will do after this is I've already put it together. I will add the link to the article that I've written about this, that outlines which airports you would probably be best to travel to for the shortest travel time once you're in Lapland. I think it's good to also know that there are many options. So while for us in Australia it would be unreasonable to fly to Melbourne and drive to Sydney, it's not unreasonable to visit Sydney is what I mean, as opposed to stopping in Melbourne. It wouldn't be unreasonable for you to consider flying to Rovaniemi and then driving to any of these places, or if you can get public transport to somewhere, that's not out of the question. It obviously just reduces your travel time, and logistically much easier if you only have to get one flight directly to where you're going. So yeah, don't think that you can't do the others. Okay, so that is the train, that's the flights. Onto the train. So we know about the Santa Claus Express that goes from Helsinki Central train station to Rovaniemi. It actually does go beyond Rovaniemi as well, so it's definitely worth looking at the options beyond that as well. There's a train that goes through to Kemijärvi, which is one of the places that it's the place that I'm holding my group trip in January, and likely the following year as well. It's a great little place. There's lots of other towns that it stops at as well. So lots of people think that it stops at Rovaniemi, but it actually doesn't. So you've got your daytime option and you've got a nighttime option. And the daytime, it's really interesting because I actually quite like train travel, and I really considered for my upcoming trip getting the train during the day, which is cheaper. But upon reflection, I kind of thought, well, with the amount of daylight we would have, we're actually not going to have, there won't be a lot of time on the train where we'll actually be able to see outside the window because it would be dark. So yeah, and essentially I just decided because of that I didn't want to spend an entire day sitting on a train and then get off the train and then go to bed, which is kind of what would happen because the train trip's about 12 hours. So I guess the advantage of being able to get on the train is that, you know, doing the overnight train is that it's quite exciting. Kids, you know, if you're traveling with kids, it can be really exciting. Waiting, that anticipation for the train to arrive, and Santa Claus Express being on the outside of the train, and then sleeping, going to bed, and then waking up, and then you arriving in Rovaniemi. So it's very comfortable. Well, I found it quite comfortable. I was actually pleasantly surprised about how comfortable it actually was. I wasn't sure that I was going to get much sleep, but the kids went to bed really easily, and we slept really well. We had to make sure we set an alarm so that we would wake up in time. I didn't necessarily think I was going to be that comfortable sleeping overnight, that I would need an alarm, and I probably didn't need the alarm, but I wanted to just make sure, because if you sleep past Rovaniemi, then the train will keep going and then you have gone beyond your point. And I was thinking, I don't really want that to happen. So yeah, we really enjoyed the train trip. It was a good way, and again, like I said before, we're all about finding the best deal. And for us, having our transport and a night of accommodation included in that cost of the transport that was a bonus. The kids had their hearts set on getting the Santa Claus Express, which is fair enough, but it also worked out cheaper for us to do that rather than flying into Rovaniemi and then booking an extra night of accommodation. So there are 2 night departures from Helsinki. You can get one that's at about 7:30 at night, and then one that's about 11-ish at night. And they both take about 12 hours. So you either arrive early morning or you arrive late morning. And then, yeah, I guess one thing to consider is if you are going to travel beyond Rovaniemi, then you've got to factor in that travel time as well. So when I'm going to Santa later in the year or beginning of January, I have got the early overnight train so that we arrive at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and then we're getting on a bus to Santa based on the times that I know of from previous years. There's a bus that usually leaves Rovaniemi train station at about 11 o'clock in the morning or 10 in the morning, something around that time. And I guess with that in mind, that gives me plenty of time to be able to get there during the daylight and arrive around check-in time and that sort of thing. So it's about a four-hour bus trip. Obviously, if I hire a car, I'd much prefer to be driving during the day than in the evening, which is most of the day. In terms of the daylight, I prefer to be driving during the lightest part of the day. So if I do hire a car from there, I like the idea of arriving early in the morning, sort of just finding my feet, finding my bearings, find the car rental place, and be able to make a move from there and just take my time and hopefully arrive wherever I'm going in the daylight. And I think if you sort of look at a map, I probably need to look at a map to actually be sure of what I'm saying, but Saraselka is the furthest north that I have been. I will have been in Lapland, and if it's a 4-hour trip on a bus, I can imagine it would be similar-ish, maybe a bit slower, because I'd probably be driving slower in the bus than the bus in the snow. But that in itself, that's kind of halfway to the most northern part of Lapland. So you maybe wouldn't want to drive all the way in one day, but certainly I don't think that's an unreasonable drive, a 4-hour drive, even if you're factoring in stops and, breaks, snow, whatever else. I guess the other thing to consider when you're planning your trip to Lapland is the weather and whether you're prepared to be driving in the snow. Also, the fact that there can be snowstorms and that can impact your ability to drive on the roads and whether the roads are open and that sort of thing. For the most part, roads will be open because they're so well cleared and so well looked after. Particularly during those seasons, you'll wake up to vehicles clearing the snow off the roads, off the footpaths every morning. So the main highways are not going to be closed unless there's something significant like a snowstorm or whatever, where it's just too dangerous to drive. Obviously, if it's actually snowing, that may just slow you down through inexperience as well, which obviously takes a bit of time. So yeah, the train is fantastic. Car hire is a great option. You can also, people do actually hire a car from Helsinki and drive north. That is a long way in the snow if you are inexperienced driving in the snow. But that's not to say you can't do it. And particularly during like the warmer months of the year or the not so snowy months of the year, that's certainly an option that people would consider, because you get to see more of the country as well. When we went in 2022-23, we, as I said, got the train to Rovaniemi, and then we actually hired a car from there, visited Renua, and then made our way south to central Finland to Kivijärvi, spent a week there, and then made our way back up to Oulu to fly out from there. So we probably got halfway down and there was snow everywhere, and we sort of overstretched probably. We did overstretch, actually. There's no question about that. We did a 500-kilometre day trip, road trip to get to Kemijärvi from Rovaniemi, and that was too far. It was snowing and it got dark, and we'd obviously never driven on those roads before, so that was too far for us, but everybody's experience is different. So yeah, you've really got to think about what you're going to be most comfortable with, and remember that safety is more important than anything else. I say that having just told you that we drove too far in a day, but we certainly wouldn't do that, and I wouldn't recommend that again. And I think when we certainly wouldn't do that again, and I wouldn't recommend it. Sorry, I didn't say that properly. I think when I was first booking it and sort of mapping out what we were going to do, I thought to myself, 500 Ks, yep, that's a big day. I know that's a big day, but we could do that in Australia, no problem. But realistically, even in Australia, 500 Ks is actually a big day driving, and we don't have snow. So yeah, my husband wasn't overly impressed with me when I realised that that's what we were doing on that day, and I was actually sick, so I was pretty useless to him at the time. But we made it, and now we can laugh about it several years later. But yeah, it wasn't the most relaxing day, that's for sure. But we obviously saw a fair bit more of the country being able to do that. So yeah, I hope that this gives you a little bit of insight into the options in terms of where you can fly into to go to Lapland. Like, don't just think that you can only fly to Rovaniemi. There are other options. If you're looking for a particular airline, Finnair is probably that will be the most popular. That's the one that you will get the most availability of flights. Nordic Air, I think it's Nordic Air, are the other one that I sometimes see flights available for, so you can look them up as well. But then there's obviously also the train, so day or night, and hiring a car. And you can actually get a bus too, and I should have mentioned that as well. So that obviously comes with pros and cons, and you just need to check the times and availability of that, but that is obviously a cheaper option. I will just go back to the car hire. Car hire is quite expensive from in and around Lapland. It's definitely advantageous to have a car because you can do whatever you want whenever you want, but if you're staying in Rovaniemi, then I don't really think it's necessary. I think you'd be better off just accessing free transfers for through your activities, or getting public transport, or even getting a taxi. But what I would say is that if you want a car for your whole trip and driving from Helsinki is an option for you, it is cheaper to hire a car from Helsinki and just drive and return the car there. But again, that comes with travel time, and time costs money and all of that sort of thing. So it is a tricky one because you've really got to weigh up a few factors in terms of time, money, budget, the specific location that you want to go to, the activities you want to do, how much snow you want, why you're there. I think a lot of it comes back to your why, and why you're doing this trip, and what is the main purpose of it. It's very hard to tick every box. There's a number of things that we didn't get to do when we went, and yeah, we'd love to go back and do a whole lot more together, and which we're hoping to do next year. Next Christmas, we're hoping to go back there we are going back there for Christmas, so hopefully we'll get to see and experience the things that we didn't get to do, and maybe in some different locations as well. So if you have got any questions about anything to do with getting to Lapland from Helsinki, please don't hesitate to pop the questions in the comments. Thank you to those of you who are here watching now. I appreciate you being here, and I hope that you find these videos helpful. It's great to have people here, and I hope that I can provide you with some information that I think I would have found beneficial when I was planning our trip. The other thing that I thought I would mention too is that next Thursday night, so the 21st of August, Alexi from Rather Chilly and I are doing a Q&A as part of our Lapland Lowdown. He is a photographer and an aurora hunter, and he is going to be talking to us about all things aurora hunting and photography, and just giving you lots of tips and tricks about catching the aurora when you are in Lapland. So please join us for that. I have shared a link to that in the Facebook group, but I will also share it again here in the comments in case you want to join that. It doesn't necessarily have to be about aurora in Lapland, so if you've been, or you're not going for a little while, or you're just dreaming about going to Lapland but you're interested in the aurora, then feel free to join, because obviously, as we know, if you live in the southern part of Australia, you have got a good chance of seeing the aurora as well. And very excitingly, we have got, this is meant to be one of the best seasons coming up. So for the Southern Lights and the Northern Lights. So we've got some exciting action in the sky to look forward to seeing. Anyway, I will sign off for now. As always, if you have questions, let me know. If you want me to cover something in these episodes, please let me know. I have a long list. I've had people reaching out, which is really exciting, and yeah, given me a few topics that I hadn't really even thought too much about. So I'm looking forward to bringing those to you, and I hope you enjoy them. At the moment, we've got them in our Facebook group, and in a few weeks' time, it's going to be moving across into a membership program, and I look forward to being able to help more and more people plan their amazing trips to Finnish Lapland. Alrighty, have a great day.